And right now we're going to talk about the second biggest problem that we heard of. So commercialization, reimbursement, and the barriers on adoption of innovation. And to have this discussion, I'm going to welcome on the stage our esteemed speakers, Bettina Nygaard Nielsen, Ph.D. pharmacist at the Department of Anesthesia and Surgery in the Pediatric section of Rigshospitalet. We're going to have Ieva Lejniece, coordinator of international projects of the development of the telemedical strategy sharing children hospital university hospital experience Riga, and Dr. Marek Migdał, director of Children's Memorial Health Institute. And guiding the discussion, we're going to have Charlotte Bertaud from EIT Health Spain.
So thank you. So good morning, everyone. I'm really glad that we are here all on the stage today to moderate this exciting panel where we will talk about commercialization, reimbursement, and adoption in pediatric healthcare. So my name is Charlotte Bertaud. I'm project officer at EIT Health Spain and part of the consortium of i4Kids Europe. So first of all, many thanks to Mark Hamis that I think give us a really great opportunity to step in after this introduction to the financial challenges, which are highly related to the topic that we will discuss right now. So based on the analysis that have been presented just before by Faye, we see that the regulatory and reimbursement as well as the commercial and adoption barriers are the second and third most important barriers for pediatrics innovator in Europe. So these results are highlighting the importance of supporting these regulations and commercialization strategy for pediatric innovation to facilitate the adoption by external parties. And I feel that what we will particularly focus in our panel right now, the adoption barrier, so with the amazing set of experts that we have here. So Bettina Nygaard, Ph.D. pharmacist at the Department of Anesthesia and Surgery in the Pediatric section from Rigshospitalet in Denmark with experience on clinical trials. Ieva Lejniece, coordinator of international project with experience developing the telemedicine strategy in the Children's Hospital University in Riga, Latvia. And finally, we have Marek Migdał, which is the director of the Children's Memorial Health Institute with more than 35 years of experience in pediatrics intensive care and as a local from Warsaw, Poland here. So to start the discussion, I would like to ask you, what do you think are the primary obstacles that healthcare providers face when adopting new pediatric healthcare technology? I don't know who wants to start. Bettina?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you for some very nice presentations. And what we have experienced, what I have experienced during my work with innovation is that definitely the financial barriers will be there, getting funding for your projects, for startups, for just doing clinical studies. That is a challenge. But also when you have like if you have medical devices you want to implement, often they are tested in adults and they don't come with data for children. So you have to sort of generate the data yourself in order to have evidence for the treatment and can do evidence-based treatment for the children.
Yes, from our experience, we faced that readiness of clinicians to do something to change approach, to make innovations. For example, when we developed a telemedicine strategy, we start from doing one mistake. We start to build it with a group of experts in digitalization. So we make the plans and strategy based on their opinion, what is the best experience abroad, and etc. And when we actually start to ask clinicians, we saw a completely different picture, because if they are not ready to change anything, to implement something new, to change approach, then we will always fail. That is our one of experience. The second is that we are a public university hospital, and even if something good is getting into the market, we can't use it next day. It takes years to implement that. For example, when they came out with insulin pumps for diabetes patients, we had the opportunity, because we have Children's Charity Foundation who pay for that before NHS start to do that after 2 years or something. And the third thing is a certification of innovation if we are speaking about medical technologies.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to defeat position of the clinicians. I am still clinician, a pediatrician. But the problem is that I agree completely that we get a lot of the regulatory barriers, financial, but there is also a problem currently in majority of the countries, including States and Canada, the problem with the shortage of the medical staff. I'm talking not only about the problem with nurses, but also technicians and medical doctors. So sometimes it's a problem that the medical staff, if he is overloaded with the regular clinical activities, they are not really able to get additional activities related to the, for example, to the testing or to some research dedicated to innovations. But I think that, as usually, if we get some, also not only senior physicians, but also the junior staff who are really interested in innovations, who get a chance to introduce such innovations in our medical institutions. So I think, just to sum up this point, that what is important is to look for the real workforces to be adapted for the new duties and the new challenges. Let's talk about challenges. And I think that we can do it. And of course, there is still a lot to do to improve the situation, but especially after such discussion and presentations as this morning, we get much more motivations to improve situation. So not only financial issues, regulatory, but also we should look how to improve our workforce's availability.
Yes, I agree. The local infrastructure for innovation at your hospital is also important to prioritize.
And do you feel like in these challenges, mainly for the adoption, do you feel also that the workforce can have an impact to facilitate the commercialization and the adoption, or do you think it could be tackled in another way?
Yes, and I think that during this panel discussion, the first word in the title is commercialization, which is quite still rare in the our regular duties of the public hospitals, at least in this part of the world. But important is also reimbursement. A lot of innovations which we are doing in our hospitals, we are doing as a kind of the pilot studies using some charity foundations, for example, to introduce the new medical technologies and later having the very good results, medical results, economic results, we are starting to discuss with our health technology assessment agency in Poland, and later with the financing body, which is National Health Fund. There's a chance, and later, from the perspective of the public hospital, it's a kind of the commercialization, because we test it, we get a good results, and later we get a chance to increase our income from the National Health Fund to reimburse this medical procedure. So I think that's, yes, we are able, it's much less or much less frequently to get a commercialization of the, for example, new medicinal products or medical devices in terms of the, what is to get the approved indication or to get the approved certification for the medical devices. But this is the future. We get I don't want to prolong my talk, but having the Medical Research Agency in Poland established 3 years ago, we get the funds, and we are running in our hospital, for example, non-industry sponsored clinical trials, having the, I hope in 5 years' time, results which will be able to change, for example, to add the new indications for the old products.
And so also something important in pediatrics that we still didn't mention is so pediatric healthcare is really patient-centered. And maybe can you tell me how to ensure that this commercialization efforts align with the specific needs and preference that can have the patient, the children, and their family?
I will maybe start. Firstly, about commercialization. We are a public hospital, and as a colleague in Poland told, we can't do commercialization, but we are working with national systems so we can do it one day in the future to improve this development of innovation. Second thing about patient in the center, we as a hospital are working as a filter with our experts, including patient parents supervisory board, to filter those innovations what are getting in the market, if they are actually, if patients will get benefit, like real benefit, not just in innovator's mind, but in real life. So we are working, we have team, we are like evaluating this, if patient will be in the center, if not. Otherwise, that is our aim, not aim, but our role as a hospital, what we can do.
Yes, I think if development is going on in the hospital, it could be development of new pharmacological interventions or medical devices. It will be patient-centered, and it will go from a point from the patient's needs, because that's what you see as the medical staff in the hospitals, that you have these challenges and you have a desire how to solve them and improve patient care and essentially make it more child-friendly.
Sure, thank you. And related to that, do you have any experience or lessons that you have learned from the past where you could share with us? Or?
Yes, we have been doing in the Department of Anesthesia, where I'm working, an innovation project where we developed a nasal spray, an analgesic nasal spray for children. And so we have been struggling with both the clinical trials, the regulatory authorities, the funding, and also taking it from the point of just being a clinical trial with a potential new product to actually doing the regulatory path as a hospital, doing a pediatric investigation plan. And then from the Pediatric investigation plan, which is a development plan for it to become an approved product, and into a spin-out company, and further funding for that. So that's sort of all the way. And what I can say is that it's, to my point, it's very important to early in this process to dedicate a commercial project leader to this project, to these kind of innovation projects, because as a healthcare person, you think about all the scientific purposes and challenges here, but you sort of don't know that much about the financial and the commercial part of it. So I think it's very important that you have a person very early in the process that sort of adds these inputs to the project.
Thank you for sharing this insight. Yes?
If I may add another example from the past, the example of the innovation which was not related to the economic effect. It was related to innovation which we performed 3 years ago in our hospital, together also with the Kids Foundation and other sponsors. We were informed, just for knowledge of those people who are not able to attend yesterday's visit in our hospital. This is one of the biggest European pediatric tertiary hospital at the moment. We get 1/4 of the million of children passing through our hospital every year, and this is a big complex, 31 buildings in the complex, and one of the partner from the Kids Foundation, they performed this study, the questionnaire or survey among our parents of our patients. What are the real barriers which they see in our hospital? And more than 50% of our patients are coming outside of the, not only Warsaw, outside of this region, Mazovia region. And for people coming from, 300 kilometers, 400 kilometers, it was a real, the biggest stress was not related to the medical procedures. The biggest stress was related to how to find the proper place in our complex. So that's why we decided to make in our hospital a kind of the food metro. We get 8 lines of the metro. We get more than 30 stations, and later, thanks to kids, we also introduced this kind of the navigation system among all of the parts of our hospital, just to support the families. So this is a type of the innovation in pediatric hospital, which is not related to the improvement of the direct improvement of the medical care or economic effect, but is supporting the families. And as you know, with the decreased stress, we get much better, much easier later to perform our medical procedures. So please remember also about this type of the innovations, which are very important for the families of our patients.
Yeah, I can also add shortly that we also did the same, because we are facing now a lot of reconstruction work. All over hospital territory is under reconstruction, and it's very stressful for kids, like for parents and families to navigate. And we also have the lines, colored lines, where they can find something. And I will also agree that we don't need to forget about small innovations, what doesn't cost like almost nothing, just idea how to improve.
Thank you. I wanted also to ask you, so with this innovation, I wanted to know if you have sometimes some like on the regulatory landscape that we didn't touch so much for the moment. I wanted to know how, as a healthcare provider, this regulatory environment impacts you in your innovation. How do you deal with it, and which strategy do you employ to navigate these challenges while ensuring the patient safety?
Yeah, you was looking for me, so I start very shortly. Yeah, that's as we discussed previously. Of course, the regulatory barriers can be very important, regardless of the part of the world or Europe. And in Europe, we get talking about the innovations related to the medicinal products or medical devices. Since 2007, we get a pediatric regulation, which changed completely the landscape in the development of the drugs for children. There's the obligation at the moment for the pharma industry to perform the clinical trials, different type of the clinical trials in all age subset of the pediatric population. But we get also the regulation on medical devices, which changed previous directive. This regulation was went into the force in 2017, and the transit period will be ending in 2024. And there is a real problem for pediatric society, because they need to certify all of the medical devices or medical materials in all age subgroup of the pediatric population. There's a real challenge. During the previous talk, where it was said that there is for the investors, there is the pediatric market can be profitable, which is there are a lot of the opinions that now to certificate, for example, the endotracheal tubes for neonates, the same with catheters for neonates, the gastric tubes. It's a real financial challenge for the manufacturers, and we get a lot of the worries how we perform. And of course, we are open for this also to support the industry or innovators, but I see a lot of the problems in the near future.
And for the pharmacological part, or for the clinical trials with the pharmacological intervention, you can say that also the requirements is increasing all the time. So I would say that from the point where you have the idea for the clinical trial and going through all the approval, it will take you half a year to 1 year before you're ready to start, actually. So that's quite a long time.
And later, additional couple years to collect the results of the...
That's another thing, yeah. Data collection, right? So, and also you have to consider for that. Normally, if you're doing large trials, one side will not be enough, and you have to collaborate, and that's a good thing, I think, with the other countries and other children's hospitals to get the data collected in due time. But also you have to go through regulatory procedures in these countries. Normally it's easier when you got the first one, but still it's a lot of administration here.
Yes, and we also need to speak with those policy makers about the role of innovation and how to make those processes easier, not to take 2 years or 3, but how to change in general those processes. So it make it a little bit easier to change something, so it doesn't take such a long time.
Yeah, and I think actually also that's important. Go back to the infrastructure at your own hospital, and you have the support you need to do this while you're also doing clinical work and other assignments here to get the work done in due time.
And except I think it's a really good point to contact the policymaker, but in the clinical trials, do you think there is another way or another strategy that you can use to go faster or to improve it in the following years?
Well, I think, doing it the first time is almost the most difficult, and then the third and so on is much easier. So I think if you have some support in your hospital for doing this, where you can go and get advice, if you cannot do that in your own apartment, I guess levels of experience with doing clinical trials, pediatric clinical trials, will be different from different departments.
Yeah, but it's also our role as a pediatric society to support innovation. And of course, we have no enough money to invest for the development of the new drugs. But we can also cooperate with the with innovators in terms of the, for example, validation of the new biomarkers. It's extremely important to assess properly the efficacy and safety of the new products. I'm talking about the medicinal products, but we have to use the validated biomarkers to see if the drug is working or not. So that's the role, and that's also a chance for us, for the research pediatric institutions, to find for example, talking about the new treatment options for the oncologic patients or rare diseases. Is important, especially with the very limited number of the patients, to know how to really verify if the drug is effective. So that's, I think there are still a lot of the space for the, first of all, for the exchange of the ideas, and later to cooperate in this field. For such innovations, not really very big, serious investments in terms of the budgets are needed.
So you pointed out so the need of innovation for the pediatric society. And to give a bit of future outlook, what do you think could do like maybe the industry collectively with healthcare provider and so on to remove this barrier and really promote this innovation?
I think that is a common goal to cooperate. Yesterday, during the afternoon session, one of the speakers said that collaboration equals innovation. So we should talk together, different stakeholders, and to look for the solutions. If you are, of course, we can get different backgrounds and different aims to achieve. For us, the main goal is to improve the healthcare provided for the children. But if it is in the same direction for the industries, it's fantastic.
And Ieva or Bettina, maybe same question, or do you think there is any tool, strategy, or maybe programs that can be implemented to help to work with industry or to help startups, for example, to...
I think we are already doing this in this network by establishing that, so we just need to know to learn how to work together in most effective way.
Yeah, I agree. But I can see the potential for further collaboration during children's hospitals or hospitals that treat children in Europe, especially if you want to do these larger clinical trials and you want to do them within a specific time period. Because, as you say, if you go into rare diseases, there's not many patients in each country each year. Or then you have the other scenario where I work within anesthesia and pain, and then you have actually a lot of patients, but still you also need to do large clinical trials to establish evidence, and that would still require more than one site usually, and more than one country.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, like, which differences you think exist between your own healthcare system and maybe other EU country, which differences existing in the reimbursement and adoption strategy that you can mention and maybe could be improved?
Yeah. Once again, I would like to return back to this morning presentation of the survey among these, you know, the different providers, leaders, and emerging countries. I think that it's important to recognize what are the real barriers are existing, and not only existing in theory, but also what these barriers look for us on our daily practice. But I think that there were fantastic comments using as examples, and I think that still we must improve the knowledge, we must to talk, we must to avoid the wasting effort and money for the innovations which are not really innovated, because we discussed yesterday that for us working in the pediatric intensive care, there were during the last several years a lot of the proposals to use the new IT tools, for example, to collect data from our patients, or to introduce the new mode of the monitoring of our patients. But in fact, in theory, they were working. In practice, they were so, for example, time-consuming that we decided not to use this in practice. So that's, I think, but conference like today is a perfect way to discuss and to improve our, you know, the activities in the near future. So I am optimistic. I believe that in near future it will be a real progress.
Well, I must say, considering all the challenges we have experienced with innovation and doing innovation projects, I was a bit surprised to learn that my country was in the innovation leaders group. But yeah, I'm optimistic too for the future, and I think like initiatives like this, where you support collaboration, and that will do something good in the future.
And so maybe to wrap up, so if you had to propose today's headline for this topic, which headline will you say?
Let's work together.
Maybe very short, there is a need for improvement, but there is also a hope that this improvement will be achieved.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, but we have to stand up for the kids.
Great, thank you for this message. So we are coming to an end, but I would like to truly thank you for all these really interesting insights on this topic, which is really challenging, but as you say, it's optimistic, and I'm sure that we can continue in pushing the innovation forward. So I really like this optimistic message. And also a big thank you to the audience and the attendees online for their participation.
We have one question from the audience, actually. So maybe before we congratulate you on this really nice panel discussion, we could, you know, share this information or this question. The question was about the open data sets. What about open data sets in your country? Do you share, for example, data with the innovators, pediatric innovators, to help them to do the innovation? Is it possible even?
depending on the type of the data, as usually. Yeah, but of course, as I presented during this panel, my position, we are open for dialogue, for the questions. Of course, if there are the data which are, you know, protected by the data protection, GDPR, it's difficult, but yes, quite often we are in daily practice, we are asking for the so-called feasibility data, and we are responding for this, yeah.
It's the same also in Latvia. We are always restricted with GDPR, and we can't even, sometimes we are facing issues even sharing data with students who are working. And but if we can hide that according to GDPR and other like restrictions, then we are open to share, of course, to help.
Yeah, I think we all have the same GDPR challenges, but normally there's a lot, or often there's a way around here, depending on the kind of data, of course.